Okay, we're very happy to start. Um, we have so many different things to celebrate, which we will celebrate in the coming 2 days. But right now in this particular event, we are celebrating mostly two main things. One is Dr. Mints has just committed for another 5 years of support to Tel Aviv University, which is incredibly important these days. I invite the president of Tel Aviv University, Professor Ariel Porat, to say some words, after which Boris Mints will talk for a short while. Then I will say some very brief comments of appreciation. And then the second thing that we will celebrate is talk by Tamir Pardo, former head of the Mossad, that will inform us on the current conflict and what we should make of it. Of course, his interpretation, not mine. So, Ariel Porat, please.
Dear Dr. Boris Mints, BMI, Boris Mints Institute founder and president, Tel Aviv University governor and honorary fellow, Professor Itai Sened, head of the BMI, a former dean of the Faculty of Social Sciences, distinguished guests. This is a milestone conference marking a decade since the establishment of the BMI, the Boris Mints Institute. Over the years, the conferences, which take place twice a year, once in Israel and once overseas, have demonstrated the great success of the BMI. They bring in leading institutions as partners, such as Sciences Po in Paris and Oxford University in the UK, among others. Today also marks another key milestone in the BMI development. Dr. Mints, Boris to us, has just pledged an additional 5 years of funding for the Institute. So let's thank you very much for this. Boris has many important philanthropic endeavors worldwide, so his renewal of support for the BMI is a tremendous vote of confidence in the Institute's effectiveness and in Tel Aviv University. Boris is truly dedicated to the mission of the Institute, which is to find strategic, innovative, and feasible solutions that enhance the welfare of communities around the globe. We admire and appreciate Boris' hands-on approach. He is a member of the steering committee which decides each year on the research team to be pursued. He attends every conference, regardless of where in the world it is being held. He listens carefully at conferences, writes notes, and responds to questions, and he is involved virtually on a daily basis with the operations of the Institute. Boris, we do not take your dedication and hard work for granted. You are a model for engaged and meaningful philanthropy. One last remark, the BMI generally awards an annual prize to a top international scholar. Unfortunately, due to the war, it has not been awarded for the last couple of years. Our hope is to renew it soon as part of the revitalization of Israeli academia and its international ties when the war is over. Thank you all for coming, and I wish you an enjoyable and stimulating conference. Thank you.
I'd like to invite Dr. Mints, or Boris as we all call him, to say some words. Boris, please.
Good morning. Good morning, Istima participators of this of the Institute annual final session. I am pleased to welcome you all to this hall. I would like to express my special appreciation to President of Tel Aviv University, Professor Ariel Parat, for finding the opportunity to attend our session and for his continuous support of the Institute's work. I clear testament to his support in the signing of new 5-year agreement to extend the Institute's activities, which you have just witnessed. Today's session marks the conclusion of 10 years cycle in the Institute's development. In this regard, I wish to extend my sincere gratitude to those who stood at the origins of the Institute. Professor Joseph Klafter, President of TAO in 2015 years. The Institute Scientific Director, Professor Itai Senet, Dr. Chaim Ben Yaakov, Dr. Alex Pesov, Mrs. Alet Fishman, and Mrs. Natalia Borovik. My deep thanks also go to the members of the Institute's International Board, President Václav Klaus, Professor Tamir Pardo, Professor Sergei Dubinin, Professor Armen Darbinyan, and Professor Igor Luksich. Over the past 10 years, the Institute has conducted extensive research on issues such as hunger and poverty, clean water, renewable energy, global demography, and conflict studies. 7 international conferences were held in Helsinki, Finland, Valletta, Malta, Tbilisi, Georgia, Yerevan, Armenia, Podgorica, Montenegro, Roma, Italy, and Paris, France, as well as 8 conferences in Tel Aviv. During the pandemic, we continued our work with the organization of 8 webinars. 3 years after its founding, as the Institute gained recognition, we established the MBI Award, granted the scholars whose research has contributed to understanding global challenges aligned with the Institute's focus. Among the recipients of this award are renowned scholars such as Professor Joseph Sachs, Columbia University, the Peter Glick Pontific Institute, Professor Sabina Alkar, University of Oxford, Dr. John Nkeng Song, Director of the Africa Center for Disease Control and Prevention, Professor Robert Axelrod, University of Michigan, and Professor Beatrice Magaloni, Stanford University. Notably, Professor Michael Kramer of Harvard University, the recipient of our award in 2018 was awarded the Nobel Prize in Economics in 2019 for this research on hunger and poverty. Under the guidance of Professor Itai Senat, Hadas Mamane Steindl, Verit Blas, Boaz Hemery, Isaac Sesson, Rem Fishman, Dro Avizor, and Asher Tischer, the Institute has supported 27 MA theses, 33 PhD dissertations, and 24 research projects. More than 100 articles have been published in leaders academic journals, including the International Journal of Climatology, Journal of Political Psychology, Journal of Public Economics, Journal of Conflict Researches, and others. Regrettably, we must acknowledge that academic research today face challenging times in terms of its recognition and demand among global decision makers. In recent years, we have seen a wave of political leaders similarly elected democratically who have begun to dismantle the foundations of democracy, undermine the rule of law, suppress civil liberties, and exert pressure on independent scholars and academic institutions. The trends have made it increasingly difficult to conduct independent research, particularly in the social, economic, and political science. We are aware of many such cases. Despite these challenges, I believe it is critically important that the Institute has remained true to its original strategic directions over the past decade. The 21st century began with rapidly unfolding destructive trajectories. The peaceful order that prevailed for 50 years after the end of World War II, which fostered global economic growth, the development of democratic institutes and social welfare system and education, healthcare, and pension, has been disrupted. Two core principles established in the Yalta Conference in February 1945, the involvement of borders and the division of spheres of influence, have been violated. As a result, the institutional system we had come to trust is under several threat and is showing signs of stress. In response to this new reality, the strategy of the BMI Institute going forward is to develop strategic answer to the global challenges and offer practical policy solution. In conclusion, I would like to thank you all our understanding speakers and moderators and everyone who contribute to the organization of our final session, especially our administrative director, Piotr Pesov. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Boris. I would like to pass the stage to the former head of the Mossad. I would just say a very few words, especially, mainly probably directed to the ear of our beloved president. One of the most amazing things about the Boris Mints Institute is its indirect effect on our work, including incredible support to young scholars who come here and are on the verge of leaving us before some small issues. Boris is always there to help them with a little help that oftentimes keeps them here. In October, the next conference that we are planning is going to take place in Vienna. Collaboration with YASA. YASA is an international organization that Israel is a member of, thanks to an early intervention by Boris Mints and his team that enabled this membership, and that is now so dear to us because it's one of the major research institutions that still works with us and hugs us and allow us to continue to work. And one of its main theme of visions is called research diplomacy, which is the idea that researchers should keep working even when engaged in significant conflict. I sit on the executive board right next to the representative of Iran, just to give you an example. And the next conference, which is sponsored by Boris Mints, is going to deal with water issues in the Middle East, with representatives from Morocco, Tunisia, Egypt, and probably the Emirates and Saudi Arabia. So the influence of the contribution of Dr. Mints is way beyond its immediate help, which is mainly geared, as we discussed and as Boris mentioned in his discussion, to support PhD and master students in the research. So thank you so much, Boris, for your incredible engagement and contribution. And without further ado, I would like to invite Tamir Pardo, the former head of the Mossad. I don't think that he needs an introduction, so I won't waste your time. Tamir, please.
Thank you very much for being here. Thank you, Boris. While preparing this keynote speak, I don't know how to define it, I thought how to start it. Well, this is a quite small audience here. Thinking about the audience here, how many that are sitting here heard about Metternich doctrine? Metternich, that was an Austrian, by the way, he was born in Germany, but he was an Austrian fellow, and he was the foreign minister of Austria and later on Chancellor. His name was Prince Metternich. His doctrine, basic doctrine, was in order to get stability, you need to have a balance of power you should find an equilibrium within the powers that are on the stage that time. he appears in the middle of the Industrial Revolution, at the second part of the Industrial Revolution, while understanding that keep the equilibrium properly will bring peace to Europe. One thing about equilibrium, it reminds me of 2003 when the Americans invaded Iraq. Before that invasion, thinking of topple Saddam Hussein, the idea was that the equilibrium within the Middle East between Iran and Iraq kept a kind of stability in this part of the world. We remember the war between Iraq and Iran. We remember the outcome of the war. And the outcome of that war, when Iraq didn't exist anymore, Iran became the main power in the Middle East. That's an outcome of anti-Metternich policy. Think about strategy, think about solution. What was the strategy of the White House in 2003? Which kind of solution they were looking for, but crushing the main equilibrium in the Middle East and in Asia as well. A huge mistake. Where we are standing today, I believe that we are now in an unprecedented era of revolution that was started around 30, 40 years ago. And for understanding which kind of solution or which kind of strategy we should develop, first of all, we should understand our current situation, where we are standing, and basically why. When I'm talking about the era of revolution, I'm thinking about when I was, and I am now over 70 years old, when I was in high school, the world was totally different. I'm telling to judge as my grandchildren are now in their 17 years old. Think about school during their time, my time, compared to their time. You cannot compare it at all. The point is that, and the basic problem, that today who holds the reins? Who is running the shot? Who is calling the shot? Who are the main actors? They are those who were graduated in the old world, the post-Second World War. And today we are facing a totally different world. And I try to analyze it in order to understand later on what should be done. We are in the middle of a huge technological revolution. The pace of changement is incredible. Thinking only on AI, think about who knew, who understood the word AI 5 years ago or 6 years ago. Very few. In some labs around the world, but not more than that. I remember the first time that we were introduced to internet was not 2 centuries ago. We are talking about here in Israel. It was in the 80s of last century. We're talking about 40 years ago. We were standing today. Think about Google. Think about the social media. Where was it? It was not. And the pace is accelerating very, very fast. We are unable to draw the outcome of that revolution, let's say, what's going to happen in 10 or 15 years from now. It's very, very hard. The second change or revolution is the life expectancy. We must understand that if we are thinking about 100 years ago, people in developed countries lived until the age of 45 to 50. Now, when you're talking about Singapore, for instance, we're talking about around 89, 90 years old in less than 100 years. And we're thinking about those developed countries in Africa. The change is much greater. They were living 100 years ago, the average life was around 30, 35. Now they are over 60. Think about the implication of those figures. If in 1920, only 2 billion people lived on this planet. 100 years ago. Today, we are around 9. Think about the implication of the difference. The planet is the same planet. But between 2 and 9, think how many mouths we should feed on a daily basis. I remember that Mao Zedong, when he was asked, what is main problem? He said, I should feed on a daily basis a bit less than 1 billion people, 3 meals a day, proper education, and proper job. That was his challenge. And as he understood the challenge, he developed a strategy. So are we understanding what we are facing only by life expectancy? I'm not sure. Think about the implication. Pensions. All over the world, people used to live, let's say 50 years ago, the average was a bit more than 60 years old. So when you reached the age of getting pension, you were already dead on the way to die. But today, you stop. You are losing your job at the age of 63 or 67, depends who you are. By the way, it should be opposite, because women will live much longer, but who cares? So we are thinking about quitting the job at the age of 67 and then starting to get some kind of payment from the government. So when you have 1 year or 2 years to live, that's fine. But when you have 20, 25 years, who can support it? No economy can support it. And the gap is getting greater and greater every year. And thinking what's going to happen when the budget will not allow the government to support those people that should get pension. What's going to be the outcome? Think about health. Think about housing. You need much more housing when the population getting greater and greater. Where to do it? So you start to eat the green areas. So where are we going to live? Health. Those people, when you're getting older and older, you visit the hospital many more times. You are occupying beds. Who will plan the strategy of healthcare in this time of revolution? I'll tell you, in many places, no one. And the implications are very grave. Think about food. The same planet should support now 9 billion people. Social security. And you know, even loneliness is a problem today. Any strategic problem. And we do not understand it. I'm not talking about climate. And now I'm moving to I think, something that we should think about. Splitting the wealth in this world today. If we're taking Forbes 2022, the first big 2,000 companies or enterprises, let's say, had a revenue of $47.6 trillion. Do we understand that figure? The revenue of 2,000 companies, the biggest in the world, were a bit less than $5 trillion. It's a huge number. The assets was around $233 trillion. That's the assets of more than 70% of the countries, the states that are on this planet. Think about assets. When we are thinking about that, and think about the 10 billionaires that are living today, there are so many, they got so much, and I'm starting to ask myself, who is controlling the world? It's Elon Musk and others like him? Or we, by voting every year in the election, we are running the show? As the world is a world of economy, and when you think that the billionaires that are living today, their assets are around $14 trillion, we must understand who is running the show and what's the implication. When Metternich, when he lived, let's say the second half of the Industrial Revolution, he understood the implication. And in his vision, getting the equilibrium was essential to keep stability. The outcome of the Industrial Revolution, we saw it in the Second World War and the Russian Revolution, and all the changes that took place on the first half of the 20th century. So where we are standing now. And going on, think about the technology, the change in technology, and I'll develop this issue a bit later. What is truth? What is right or wrong? For getting a bit more to understand it, think about the cyber. Cyber is a new world. People, by the way, do not understand what does it mean. It's coming from a Greek word, by the way, using on ships. Though the captain, is on the bridge, cybering is finding the way to navigate it to the place you want to achieve. Cyber, that's a new weapon on the 21st century, and we don't understand it properly. The engineering of mind is something new. If in the past, I remember reading books about Russia, about Soviet Union, so you have the Pravda or Izvestia on each wall. People were reading it. That was a way to try to use a brainwash. But while reading it, you understood it. Using the capabilities of technology on cyber, you are not walking in the street and reading the Pravda. You are getting your Pravda on this iPhone, because I can manage through very interesting algorithms that you will get what we want you to get, and try to change your mind in order the way that I choose. The big question, who is I? The outcome of those changes, we saw the red signs. I remember I retired in 2016, and a few months after I retired, I gave a lecture in London in front of quite a bigger audience that was sitting here, but all of them were professors of economy, of business science, so on and so forth. At the end of my lecture, someone asked me, you know, you was the director of the Mossad, so tell me what's going to be the outcome of the Brexit referendum that should take place, let's say, 2 or 3 weeks ahead. I looked at them and said, I was Mossad. I know nothing about the Brexit. No, give you your mind. So I said, you know, if 20% of the UK voters are going to vote to quit the EU, you should consider it as the French Revolution in the UK. They looked at me and said, why are you saying so? I said, look, the British government, Prime Minister Cameron, okay, all of them believe that the UK should stay within the EU. All the parliament, from side to side, actually believes that the UK should stay within the EU. The City of London, the heart of British economy, all of them stay. All the faculties, economy, should say stay. And I said, you, the audience here, without being a businessman, I guess that no one here knows what's going to be the implication of quitting the EU and how to do it properly. So if 20% are going to vote for quitting the EU, you should understand that they are voting not because there is an understanding on what they are voting, because they don't believe in you. They don't believe in the system. They said that the system are misleading the voters, the people. And we know what was the outcome, over 50. That was a very interesting sign when a society stopped to believe the system. Few months later, and I remember I was in Washington a few weeks after the election. And there was a meeting, what we're calling an old boys club. Okay, maybe the CIA, FBI, that veterans were sitting, drinking beer. And it was weeks after the election, and President Obama declared that he has nominated an investigation on what was the Russian role in the election, if you remember. And I looked at them, all veterans. Okay, I said, go to the White House, tell him not to do it. Yes, you are an Israeli. That's the way you're thinking. No, I said, it's not an Israeli. Think, the outcome of this election was, let's say, 50% to Hillary Clinton and 50% more or less to Trump. An investigation like that, it will take more than 2 or 3 years to find out and what really happened, but doesn't matter what's going to be the finding. 50% of the people will not accept the outcome. So if I was a Russian, I know that I didn't change the outcome of the election, okay? But if I had some kind of cyber operation, it was the best operation ever done, and you managed to throw the American society apart by investing, I guess, less than $5 million. The outcome of a big war by investing nothing and playing a small game without being effective at all. And that was the outcome. But the results of the election in the States was again the same reason of the outcome of the referendum. People didn't believe anymore in what we used to call the Washington Belt, the system. There was understanding that the system doesn't work for the people unless they are part of this Washington Belt or a few other belts around the States. And then, 4 years later, Biden won the election, but without understanding that he should get the hearts of the American people. And the last outcome, when Trump is back again, for the same reason. We gave Biden a chance to rebuild the system and the trust in the system. But he missed his opportunity. And we go back to him, not because he's a Republican, because he doesn't believe in the system. That, by the way, the Republicans are part of the system, of course. But he is not part of the system. And the last thing is the change of warfare characteristic. Think about 9/11. Think about ISIS, or think about October the 7th. Those wars are totally different from the wars we used to see. At the end of the day, 9/11 brought the United States to invade Afghanistan, a very, very costly war, and very expensive one, and what they did in Iraq, that they changed totally the equilibrium in the Middle East. Thinking about ISIS. ISIS was not a common war, but in order to defeat ISIS, the war needed a coalition of more than 30 countries. And who were those bastards that led ISIS? They were nothing. They had all guns from the 50s of the 19th century, running trucks like we saw in the October the 7th, Toyota, no tanks, no ships, no air force, and they managed to take over a large part of the Middle East and create a mess in many more other countries. And why? Why we faced such a change in war? Because it happened to be that in order to carry out a proper war, you don't need an F-35. You can use much cheaper weapon. Cyber weapon, drones that are very cheap, missiles like we see in Gaza or now with the Houthis, that you don't need Lockheed Martin or Boeing to develop it. It's a different kind of a war. And we heard just the sirens here last night at around 2 o'clock in the morning. By whom? By those people, I'm going to say, they're riding camels. They don't have a cutting-edge technology. But they looked at the watch and knew that many people in Israel are still awake because of the Eurovision, and they pressed the button. It was not against the IDF, these are different forces. It was against the people. I bypassed the armies. I bypassed the armored carriers, the Air Force, and I hit the civilian population. And I'm changing the equilibrium of the war. Here in Israel, on October the 7th, thinking about if you are taking just a piece of paper, comparing being Sinwar, for instance, for 10 seconds, thinking about Sinwar, I was sitting there, said, how many tanks I got, and how many Israel? I got 0, they got hundreds. How many aircrafts I got in Gaza? 0. How many Israel has? Hundreds. How many armored carriers? What was the size of the intelligence? How many infantry people? What kind of weapons do they have? It's an elephant versus an ant. So being reasonable, being Sinwar said, no way, I'm going to lose the war. I know they're going to lose it. So why to start it? Let's go fishing, it's better. But no. With weapons, AK-47, that was brand new at the end of the Second World War, they used to massacre us. The elephant was sleeping. That's all. The elephant was sleeping. And the elephant was sleeping, even an ant can be very effective, unfortunately. The national security start with the personal security, my security as an individual. And what is it? Within it, you have what we call the physical security. You have job security, health security, education security. If you don't have a sigma and total of those 3, 4, 5, you are not secure. And politician usually believes that counting tanks and aircraft, you get security. Unfortunately, I don't like to use this word, but it's a bullshit. From me to my family, my community, and my country than to the geopolitical surrounding. And as we are living in the global village, the complexity is something that we should think about. Because things that are happening now, this time, in Taiwan, have a direct impact on us here, and vice versa. And as we are living in a totally different era, and I remember when I got in, 3 weeks after I became the director of the Mossad, we started to see what we called the beginning of the revolution, the Arab Spring. And I remember that I had some meetings with friends around Israel, and they said, you must understand that if in the past, when there was, let's say, a riot somewhere, or a demonstration in a remote place, a TV team went to cover it. If you were lucky, you got 30 seconds at 9 o'clock news. Today, there is no camera team. If there are 200 people in this area, you have 200 TV stations. And I remember that on the first day of the big demonstration in Egypt, China cut off the option to see it because they were worried that it's going to be an epidemic. So how we create stability, how we develop solution for strategy. That's the reason you're sitting here. That depends on leadership. And that's the biggest problem today, not here, but all over the world. And the next question that I guess in this building, people are asking themselves, what is the best political system for our world today? I remember that I was asked that question when I gave a lecture in one of the universities in the States. Someone come up, what do you think is the best political system? And I said monarchy for sure. That's the best system, but under one condition, that the monarch going to be a good man. So I was asked, why monarchy? I said monarchy because the king will not say that his father ruined the country and he should rebuild the country. That's one. Two, he will prepare the country for his son. He would have a long vision, 20, 30 years, not tonight news. He should have a strategy if he wants his son to carry on as a king. Today, politicians are thinking about today, tonight, 3 weeks from now, if you're lucky 1 month. They don't have any strategy because they don't understand the problem. They don't understand, in order to find and to develop a strategy, you should understand what are you facing. Unless you understand it and understand the reasons that you find yourself in kind of awkward situation, you will never be able to develop any proper strategy. The ability to understand the threats and the opportunities will be the way to develop a proper strategy. Today, we can find that many of the politicians are not looking after opportunities, but only looking at the threats. Without understanding, to find a solution for the threats, you should look out for opportunities. And unfortunately, we can see it, what happened just last week in this Middle East when President Trump took his visit to the Middle East. Now we are facing a decision that will be taken by our government, what to do in Gaza as a strategy. Before the war started, for instance, I'll give you, the IDF understanding was that the Hamas got between 20 and 25,000 people that can fight, warriors, whatever. 90 months ago, on 15th of August, 24, IDF declared that we killed more than 17,000 Hamas. That there are thousands that were wounded and are out of circle, and 3,000 on arrest. So, how many Hamas are out of job today? All the 25,000. So what we are fighting now? What is our strategy? To kill whom? Those who were 16 or 17, 19 months ago, and now hardly know from where to shoot, to use the gun. Okay, they can kill. They can kill 2 or 3 soldiers, but they will be killed for sure. So what was our strategy and what is our strategy? And as I said, politicians are talking and try to convince the whole world that we are fighting in a war to prevent another October the 7th. But October the 7th started not because we had to face the Wehrmacht or the Russian divisions, nor the Egyptian 3 armies, that attacked us on 73, or 10th Division in Syria. We were attacked because we slept, because the elephant was asleep, because of various reasons. What we had enough power to prevent it. So don't sleep, and you will never meet another October the 7th. That's the strategy. It's not very complicated. But threatening Israel, threatening the world that you need to carry out an endless war in order to make Israel safe again, that's bullshit. To summarize, we are in the middle of a global revolution. On one side, on the advantage side, it's great. We have an excellent technology that is developing, and you can see it on a daily basis. After the Second World War, after Hiroshima and Nagasaki, there was an understanding that in order to prevent it, we should develop something in the world that no one will be able to use that power against anyone. And the world managed to do it. But today, we are finding something else. What is true? What is the truth? When I heard on 2016, the lady in the White House, that she was asked something and said there is an alternative truth, that's a problem. When politicians are not committed to truth, and we can try to play with our mind using this great technology, omitting the advantage and using it to destroy this planet, the price might be very high. So we should think how to bring back at least one thing, how we will be able to understand what is true, what is right, and what is wrong. If we won't be able to do it, we can develop many, many strategies, but they will not hit the target. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. We will take questions from the crowd. I have a credible threat. If you don't ask questions, I will. So you better come up with good ones, or I will come up with not so good ones. So questions from the crowd.
Well, you mentioned technology as being a new front, essentially, that we have to deal with. But I think behind that is information, really, and how the world perceives what we do, precisely because information can be so tightly controlled. Would you consider public relations an additional thing now that has to be dealt with in a front that Israel wasn't expecting as much before this war broke out?
Shall be right. I don't understand the question. Sorry.
I'll reword it. I'll ask it like in a different moment. I'll reword
it. You spoke about using social media for like the new warfare. So why are we not investing more money into it, in Israel in general? And why we see in the world that like only few companies that have the control over all the social media and not more investment from other companies to compete? Let's say on Instagram, Facebook, other social medias.
The point is not how many social medias are, okay? The moment that somebody's going to invent something new, I guess we're going to have another one. Okay, the case is how you use it. I remember that 8 years ago, I was in a conference in Harvard, and I said, there is a very interesting solution to use it properly. If we're going to say that Facebook, that was the famous one those days, in order to be a member in Facebook, you should give your credit card as an ID, identification. You're going to pay 1 cent. That's all. So each one that will use Facebook can be identified. The moment you can start to use those machines in a way that you are using it improperly, that you are not telling the truth, but you are attacking someone. Unfortunately, even from my granddaughter class, okay, a young girl of 13, 14-year-old tried to commit suicide because she was attacked. but that's social media. So it's not how many social medias, let's say, enterprises will have, is how to use it. At the moment you can use it in a way that you can kill people by using it, and you divert your mind to see what's wrong, what's right, and what is a lie. And it's it's not so complicated today. We're using that technology. So the question is not how many media we're going to have, is how to run it. We should come to an agreement, as it was used after the Second World War, when the IAEA was established by President Eisenhower. Well, there was an understanding if everyone will start to develop an A-bomb, that's going to be the end of this planet, is to find a way how to control this threat, because otherwise we can lose everything. It's worse than a bomb. And it's sitting here, and it's not controlled. It's not controlled by not those who are looking for democracy. It's not controlled for those who are trying to use it in the wrong way, to stay in power, to change people's mind. That's a problem in the social media. Today it's getting worse. Much harder to control.
Since I'm so much afraid that I will ask the questions that are coming up.
Come on, go and ask.
First of all, thank you so much. For this lecture. It has been very, very interesting. Also, speaking on the topic of social media, there's a very thin line on social media between censorship and freedom of speech. So I wanted to hear your thoughts on how we could maximize freedom of speech and minimize censorship while at the same time staying safe and avoiding the spread of misinformation and narratives that are malicious to communities that they're exposed to.
I don't think that the problem is censorship. I don't mind that if you use social media, using your name and being able to stay behind your words, that's fine. But I don't want to see those like what we saw just last week. There was a gentleman, he was a teacher in one of the schools in Ramat Gan, in Ol Shem, and he used social media without using his name, saying lies, attacking people, taking the benefit that those social media are giving him, not to put his name, real name, up front and defend his messages. So the problem is not censorship. The problem is that you are able to do things behind the curtain using all kind of bots and other things. Okay? So maybe you have your own view, but you are able technically to add another 2,000 people that don't have your view because they're not people. They're avatars. So using avatars in order to change my mind, that I'll think that many, many people have a different thought that I have, and they try to convince me that I'm wrong. So that's, you're getting the opposite of what you wanted to achieve. And that's the situation now. So thinking that by it's not censorship, it's a right way to use social media. Social media, on one hand, it's great, can be very effective to bring good to people, to assist us, to help us, to use our mind in much proper way. But when it's using capabilities in the wrong way, you are creating disaster at the end of the day.
I would also like to first thank you for this great talk. And I would also like to ask you whether you have any thoughts about the role of the UN in addressing the global challenges that you discussed.
I believe that the United Nations should have a major role. I think that the creation of the United Nations, okay, was an excellent solution to the problem that we faced after the Second World War. Remember, the first appear of, it was not the United Nations, but it was after the First World War. Okay, that was just the beginning. I think that after the Second World War, there was an understanding that without such an organization, this planet will not exist. And used to confront, let's say, the system was built in a way that the powers after the Second World War was split. Now we're talking about different world. So you know it was a United Nations number one, which became another number two. Something new that will be able to meet our challenges. Today, look, think about the powers after the Second World War. Okay, there was the United States on one hand, there was the Soviet Union on the other hand. Europe was actually not important, okay? They have to rebuild Europe again. India was not there. China was not a power, real power. I'm not talking about other countries, those emerged countries. So the power is slipping, I'm going to say that we have many more powers that should take part in this game, and the threat that we are facing now are different threats, and we have to find solution for those different threats. Otherwise, okay, they're sitting there in New York spending money, but doing nothing. And in order to reconstruct that equilibrium, need another United Nations, but it's really essential. And unfortunately, the United States that should have been the leader of creating UN 2.0 is not in the game anymore. So the threat is that we're going to lose even what we have now in the coming future, because it's going to be meaningless. When I think we're meaningless, people will not obey, will not accept resolutions, and I think it's really necessary to find a way for something new.
I think I reworded my question from earlier. So now that we're in the information age, it's a lot more easy to disseminate information, but it also makes it the way in which we disseminate misinformation a lot easier. So how is the strategy for combating this changing now?
I think that I don't mind that my Prime Minister will appear in a press conference or even use social media and will use his name when he tried to convince me what's right or wrong. But I do not accept that using others' votes on all kind of new mechanisms that you can find in this world, new world, to convince me without staying behind. As I said, it's very easy to solve, but unfortunately, the companies that are holding those machines are feeling that they're going to lose a lot of money if they will force people to play, let's say, a fair game. And because the name of the game is money, so it's very hard. I was, let's say, I thought at one stage, well, I heard some hearings in US Congress that they will start to put an end to this bloody game of using improperly the social media, but they didn't. Because the power behind it was billions of dollars. But one day it will explode. I don't know what's going to be the consequences, but it will explode. And by the way, the Chinese found a way to block it by using a censorship. And that's a wrong thing to do. Put your name, say what you want, and be ready to be judged by others. And not to pull a curtain that no one understands who is talking, who is saying what, and using it wrongly. When, you know, I guess when Boris thought where to contribute, where he should invest, in the faculty of biology, mathematics, computer, cyber, or in social science. The answer is in social science. Unfortunately, when I see that university, and I remember that university 40 or 50 years ago, the center of the university was social science. And today, it's not. So you can solve an algorithm or create an algorithm sitting in a very nice building of computer or science. But to make this world safer, you need to learn what you can from history and to understand social science. And I think that should be the most important faculty in any university, because we're dealing with people. Yes, we need algorithms, we need mathematics, astronomy, and physics. But social science, that's what will lead us. And investing in order to find solutions strategy policy, you can use algorithms and software, but use social science. Invest in the right place, and you'll achieve your goal.
As a former dean of the Faculty of Social Sciences, I can only thank you for that. I think that actually Boris Mints has figured it out before you, as you can see, 10 years ago. So we thank Boris for that too. I want to ask a very different question, and that would be the last question, because we have to move on to a smaller room to have a somewhat more intimate meeting. But you talked a lot about equilibria and how they break, and that's kind of my professional career, dealing with such equilibria. I wonder if you could say something. You know, people talk about, you know, Palestinian state, you know, this solution, that solution. I wonder if, for concluding this remarkable set of insights that you gave us, you could say something about some sort of an equilibrium that you, with all of your experience, can envision that might be feasible and give us some hope. Because you said, you know, we shouldn't sleep. Okay, we got that. But what should we hope for? That's my question.
Unfortunately, since 1967, we are the only state on this planet that has no borders. Our government, okay, starting from labor and even much more left than labor, okay, up to the extreme right, we saw all kind of governments from 1967. No one make the first decision that should be made. What is the borders of your country? And we neglect that question. We are giving ourselves stupid answers while we do not want to take a decision. I guess, okay, that if after the Six-Day War, I was there on 8th grade, I was 14 years old. I believe that if the Israeli government would say, we're going to annex all the area between the Mediterranean and the Jordan Valley, we were in a total different situation today. I don't want to say worse or better, okay? I don't want to judge it, but different. The moment you don't decide what are the borders of your country, you are making a huge mistake that can bring the end to your country. What was done is to try to hold the stick, both sides. And you cannot hold the stick on both sides for a very long time. And I believe that the first, and I tried to convince, when I was a director, I tried to convince, without any success of course, okay, our government, our politicians, whether they were in the coalition or the opposition, doesn't matter, because all of them are stupid, okay, all of them. They are terrified of touching this problem by understanding that if you don't touch it, it somehow will be managed. And I say it's like a marriage, okay? If there is a small problem and you don't solve it while it's possible, wait another year, another 2 years, it will end with a divorce or with killing, okay? It depends which kind of family you're dealing with. So we are there, not divorcing, but killing each other, without understanding that we are doing nothing but digging more and more our grave. I'm saying we are digging our grave, not theirs, but ours. So decide what is the border of your country. What is behind the border, it's not important. It's not us. Maybe I'll have to control it by military force, but gonna military force and not a mixture of military and civilian. That's what we are now. When I hear the news, and I hear that in the West Bank, in Judea and Samaria, we used gunship helicopters. We are using tanks. We are using rockets, drones, and all kind of weapons. Actually, think about that. It's like sending the British Air Force to deal with a problem in Oxford or in the suburb of London, to be more accurate of the distance. So we are declaring day and night, our government declaring that they're going to crush and, I don't know, totally destroy, destruction of the Hamas in Gaza. But what about the Hamas in Judea and Samaria? You're crushing that, but you're not, actually you don't touch them at all. The first thing to solve a problem is to create your border. And in Hebrew, there is a double meaning to a border. So we don't have a border, okay? You don't have a border in many other things. And you're losing your conscience. You are losing very basic things that in order to be a Jewish democracy, you should keep. Otherwise, you're going to lose everything.
Thank you very much. I should invite all of you. We are moving to a smaller room, more intimate. We have asked...
before, come on.
Exactly. We are asking Tamir to stay with us. We will be joined with Itzik Ben Israel and Amos Nadan and other very important thinkers to continue to discuss precisely the same issue. So room 021 in the basement. Thank you very much.